Somewhere on the shelf of almost every serious whiskey collector sits the cheapest looking bottle they own. No proper label, sometimes just a strip of masking tape with a date scribbled on it. And if you reach for it, they will stop you, because that scruffy bottle is the one whiskey in the house that cannot be replaced at any price. It is called an infinity bottle. But here is the strange part. You could start one tonight, with bottles already sitting in your kitchen, and within a year it might be the best whiskey you own. So what actually is it? An infinity bottle is an empty bottle or a glass decanter that you slowly fill with pours from every whiskey that passes through your collection. A splash of the Speyside single malt you finished last month. A pour from the bourbon your brother brought over. 30 milliliters from the bottle you opened on your birthday. It all goes into the one vessel, and then something quietly interesting happens. The whiskies do not just sit there as a mixture. Over weeks in the glass, they knit together, the same slow marrying that happens when a distillery vats different casks, and the blend comes out rounder than the sum of what went in. Every new addition shifts it a little. You never empty it. You top it up year after year, and it slowly becomes something no distillery on earth has ever produced. Collectors have passed the idea around quietly for years in whiskey clubs and forum threads, and once you hear the reasons behind it, it starts to sound like plain common sense. 8 reasons, counting down to the one that is the real point of the exercise. Number 8, you already own everything you need. Think about the bottles on your shelf right now. At least one of them has been sitting at the same level for months because there are 2 pours left, and neither of them feels like an occasion. That is the last pour problem, and every whiskey drinker has it. The end of a bottle is oddly hard to drink. Finish it, and the whiskey is gone forever. Leave it, and the air slowly gets to work, because a nearly empty bottle is mostly air, and whiskey sitting under all that air fades far faster than it did when the bottle was full. The fruit dulls first, then the finish shortens, and the last glass ends up a paler version of the whiskey you paid for. So those sad final measures, stranded in the bottom of half a dozen bottles, are not being saved for anything. They are quietly dying where they stand. Poured into an infinity bottle, they stop being leftovers and become ingredients. The nearly dead 10% of your shelf turns into the founding stock of a new whiskey, and the project costs nothing to begin. An empty bottle, rinsed well and dried properly so no water is hiding in the base, or a decanter if you want it to look the part. As for how much goes in each time, small is the whole trick. A standard pour of 25 to 30 milliliters is plenty, and no single addition should ever be more than about 1/10 of what is already in there, because a modest splash nudges the blend where a heavy hand rewrites it. That is the entire barrier to entry. Plenty of hobbies ask for money up front before they give you anything back. This one starts by paying you. With whiskey, you had already written off. Number 7. It is the only bottle on earth that is truly yours. Every other whiskey you own, someone else owns too. Thousands of people have your exact bottle of Glenfiddich on their shelf. The same liquid, the same label, the same taste in the glass. Even the rare stuff is only relatively rare. A limited release of 3,000 bottles still means 3,000 people with an identical whiskey. And the auction sites list page after page of them any week you care to look. The infinity bottle breaks that completely. The moment your second pour goes in, you have created a whiskey that exists in exactly one place. And the deeper it gets, the more unrepeatable it becomes. 10 whiskeys in, the mathematics get silly. Nobody else has combined those 10 bottles in those proportions, in that order, with those months of marrying time between each edition. A master blender with a warehouse full of casks in Scotland could not clone it, because half the component bottles are discontinued, finished, or scattered across the planet, and the exact ratios exist nowhere outside your own notebook. Collectors spend their whole lives chasing scarce releases, queuing for ballots, paying secondary market prices for the privilege of owning what a few thousand strangers also own. Your scruffy decanter with the masking tape label is an addition of one. There is something quietly satisfying about that, in a hobby where everything else can be bought by whoever shows up with the most money. Number 6. The distilleries have been doing this all along. The infinity bottle sounds like a home hack, but the method behind it is one of the oldest tricks in the drinks world. In the sherry bodegas of Jerez in southern Spain, producers age their wines through what they call a solera, rows of stacked barrels arranged by age. When they bottle, they draw only a portion from the oldest barrels, never draining them, Then refill those barrels from the row above and refill that row from the row above it, with the youngest wine entering at the top. The old wine educates the young wine all the way down the stack. Walk through one of those bodegas and you see barrels chalked with markings their own cellar masters inherited cobwebbed rows that have not stood empty in living memory, because the moment a solera is drained, the thing that made it valuable is gone. The character lives in the continuity itself. Some soleras have been running continuously since the 1800s, which means a glass drawn today still carries a thread of wine from barrels first filled before your great-grandparents were born. Whiskey borrowed the idea openly. Glenfiddich 15, one of the best-known single malts in the world, is married in a large oak solera vat that the distillery has kept running since 1998, and they state plainly that it has never once been emptied. It gets drawn down, topped back up with fresh whiskey from 3 different cask types, and every bottle that leaves the place carries a trace of every batch that came before it. The distillery charges a premium for exactly that continuity, and drinkers happily pay it. Now look again at the decanter on your kitchen counter. Same principle, same mechanism, same slowly deepening thread running through every glass. You are running a 1-barrel solera without the warehouse and without the premium. Number 5. It gives your average bottles a second chance. Every collector owns a few whiskies that are fine. Just fine. Not bad enough to pour away, not good enough to reach for, so they sit there taking up shelf space like furniture nobody chose. In an infinity bottle, fine bottles become useful components. A gentle, unremarkable lowland malt is boring in a glass by itself, but inside a blend it becomes the soft base that lets a richer whiskey shine. A grain-heavy blend you regret buying can stretch and lighten a mixture that has grown too dark and heavy. A young, spirity malt that felt harsh on its own brings freshness to a blend that was going flat. This is exactly how the whiskey industry thinks about its own stock. The workhorse malts and grains that fill out big blended scotch were never meant to dazzle anyone solo. They exist to carry structure and texture, and the famous distillery names layered over the top collect all the credit. Whole categories of whiskey are made almost entirely for that supporting role, and blenders buy them by the tanker. Your infinity bottle works on the same logic at kitchen scale. The bottle you were mildly disappointed by finally gets a job, holding up the middle of something better than itself. One warning though, and it matters more than anything else in this video. A whiskey you actively dislike does not belong in there. We will get to why in a few minutes, and it is the single rule that decides whether your blend ends up delicious or undrinkable. Number 4. It quietly teaches you how blending actually works, the education you did not sign up for. A master blender's palate is among the most valuable in the whiskey industry, and the famous ones spend their careers on a strange task. They keep a target flavor in their head, sometimes one created decades before they were hired, and they steer dozens of component whiskies toward it, batch after batch, year after year, so that the bottle you buy this winter tastes like the one you bought 5 winters ago. The components change constantly, casks run out, distilleries close, new stock comes of age, and through all of it, the target has to stay exactly where it was set. The infinity bottle hands you a miniature version of that job, except you get to choose the target. You add a heavily sherried pour and watch the whole blend turn darker and sweeter. You add a light floral Speyside and feel it lift and open. You overdo something, taste the imbalance, and learn to correct it with the next addition. Within a few months, you find yourself tasting every whiskey for what it would do to a mixture, which is precisely how a blender's mind works. Try a simple exercise as you build. Before each new pour goes in, taste the blend, write one line predicting what the addition will do, then taste again a month later and see if you were right. You will be wrong constantly at first, and then, gradually, you will not. No whiskey course teaches component thinking this cheaply, and none of them let you drink the coursework. Number 3. It becomes a liquid diary of your drinking life. Before the best reason on this list, a quick word. If you are finding this idea as tempting as I did when I first came across it, hit subscribe because I cover whiskey like this every single week. And if you want to support the channel directly, consider joining our membership with the join button under this video. Now, the sentimental part. This is the reason collectors get sentimental about these bottles, and the reason they will not let you pour from theirs. Every edition marks a moment. The pour from the bottle you opened the night your daughter was born is in there. The dram from the duty-free bottle you carried home from your first trip to Scotland is in there. The last measure of the whiskey your father liked, the one they stopped making years ago, is in there, and it will still be in there in 10 years, woven invisibly through every glass you draw. A photo album shows you what a moment looked like. This bottle lets you taste a decade of them at once. Collectors who keep a log beside the bottle can read it back like a journal, and the entries tell a story no tasting note ever could. March, the Islay a friend brought to the poker night and insisted everyone try. August, the honeymoon bourbon, bought at an airport because the flight was delayed and the shop was there. December, the cask strength splurge after the promotion finally came through. Years later, you pour a glass for someone you love and hand them all of it at once. Every celebration and quiet Tuesday, the bottle has absorbed. Some collectors formalize it into a small ritual. One pour from the bottle on the same date every year, tasted slowly against last year's memory of it. A kind of annual meeting with every whiskey they have ever owned. The whiskey itself becomes the record, and unlike the photo album, it grows richer every time you add a page. If the earlier reasons were practical, this one is the hook that keeps people tending the same bottle 20 years. Number 2. The rules that keep it from going wrong. Here is the honest part of the video. A carelessly built infinity bottle tastes like the bottom of a bar mat, and the failures are so predictable that they have names in every whiskey forum thread on the subject. Rule 1 concerns peat. Smoky Islay whiskey is a bully in a blend. A single generous pour of something like Ardbeg can put smoke through the entire bottle, and smoke does not leave, no matter how much gentle Speyside you pour in after it trying to bury the evidence. If you love peat, build a smoky infinity bottle on purpose and let it be gloriously smoky. If you do not, keep peated pours to a small splash, a few teaspoons at most, or give the smoky stuff its own second bottle entirely. Plenty of collectors run 2, 1 clean and 1 peated, and the pair cost as much as 0 new whiskies. Rule 2, watch the sherry bombs. Dark, rich, heavily sherried whiskey is glorious, and 2 or 3 heavy additions in a row will steamroll every delicate thing underneath them until the whole blend tastes of one note. Balance them with lighter bourbon cask pours and give the bottle time to settle between additions. Rule 3 is the one I flagged earlier, and it is the rule people break first. Never use the bottle as a bin. If a whiskey is genuinely unpleasant on its own, it will be unpleasant inside your blend, just diluted and harder to identify. A blend built from rejects tastes like rejects. Blend from bottles you like or at least respect, never from bottles you are trying to get rid of. Rule 4. Keep a log. A notebook, a phone note, anything. Date, whiskey, rough amount. Partly because the liquid diary only works if you remember what went in, and partly because the day your blend suddenly tastes wonderful, you will want to know exactly what tipped it over. And rule 5, be patient between pours. Freshly added whiskey sits on top of a blend like a stranger at a family dinner. Give it 2 or 3 weeks to marry before you judge the result, and try to taste before you add rather than after, so you always know what the new arrival is walking into. Follow those 5 and the bottle almost cannot fail, because every addition is something you chose, in a proportion you controlled, landing in a blend you understood. Number 1. It is the one bottle you will never finish, and that is the point. Everything else in this hobby runs out. You hunt a bottle for months, you open it, and from the first pour it is dying, measure by measure, until the shelf holds one more empty. The infinity bottle is the only whiskey you will ever own that moves in the opposite direction. It grows. It deepens. It picks up history instead of losing it. And the habit of topping it up becomes automatic every time another bottle on the shelf gets down to its final inch. Some collectors talk about their infinity bottle outliving them, handed on to a son or a daughter with the log tucked beside it. A blend whose oldest thread reaches back to a first pour made decades earlier, still alive in the glass, and when the bottle finally fills to the neck, you do what Jerez does. Draw some off. Pour yourself a generous run of it, or decant a small sample bottle as a gift for the friend who got you into whiskey, and let the level drop by a third or so before you carry on adding. Never drain it below that. The remaining 2/3 are the memory of the blend, the thread that keeps next year's version related to this one, exactly like the barrels that never stand empty in Spain. Whether yours becomes an heirloom or just a very good Tuesday night dram, it changes how the whole shelf feels. Bottles stop ending, they graduate. So here is your starter recipe for tonight. Find a clean bottle or decanter and rinse it well. Add 2 pours from an easygoing Speyside or Highland malt as your base, something friendly and unfussy. Add 1 pour of something bourbon cask aged for vanilla and orchard fruit. Add 1 small pour of something rich and sherried for depth at the back. Nothing peated yet, not until you know which direction the blend is heading. Write the date on a strip of tape, stick it on the shoulder, and walk away for a month before you taste what you have made. Then tell me in the comments what your first 3 pours would be, because the recipes are the best part of this whole topic and I go through every single one. I'll see you in the next one.